乖乖快啲走，妖魔鬼怪快啲走，妖魔鬼怪快啲走。
Hey guys, welcome back. Trey Keys here with yet another standard issue. We have my uncle, John. Thank you for coming back on the show to finish off this Mortal Kombat series with the newest film, the 2021 release. Oh, it's been a long time.
Yes. Mortal Kombat, the new one. I'm looking forward to it.
So, now that we got all the formalities out of the way, so I was I was really excited for this movie, but not too excited.
Yeah, I was definitely excited to see what the reimagining would be with the newer technology and special effects now. Also with their core audience being actually grown-ups now. Like, I felt like, hey, this is going to be the Mortal Kombat where they're not going to pull any punches. I was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do, and the trailers looked awesome. So I had high hopes. I was hoping a direct game to movie adaptation. Sadly, that's not what I got. But for the most part, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I would say that there's, like I said, for me, a mixed bag. There was a good point where I'm watching the movie and I'm on board with everything. There are some subtle changes, but enough to where I'm like, okay, I can live with this. And it makes a left turn really hard at some point, and it kind of goes downhill there. It struggles to keep itself going in the story department. The things that I absolutely loved about it, like I loved the casting. I loved Kano. I loved the guys they got to play Liu Kang and Kung Lao. I would even say Raiden. Everybody visually looked perfect, and I would even argue that with the right material, that their characters could have even been portrayed perfectly in their actions and everything that they did. Like I said, Kano was a huge selling point for me for this movie. I did not expect that. He's kind of the comedic relief. He keeps the moments very entertaining. He, in a way, like, and this is kind of sacrilege to say in comparison to Cole, who was our actual main character, Kano kind of feels like the person we're seeing this world through. I don't know why that's happening, but I get that vibe. I don't know if you notice.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt like the main character was basically a wasted character. All his scenes, all his parts, I really didn't enjoy at all, period. I felt like this guy doesn't need to be here. If you want to have a character that's taking the perspective as the audience and have them not understand things and need to be explained, I felt like Kano was already that character. Like, he was an outsider. Like, he started off like he's caught and he doesn't know anything. So, like, you can explain everything to him. This other guy is not necessary at all, period. Like, there's no reason for him to be there. But in the grand scheme of things, hey, maybe they're going to put this character in the Mortal Kombat game. They're going to release him as a DLC, and this is to hype him up. Like, I have no idea, but I felt like the main character was not needed, and I feel like the time that they devoted to this main character, they could have used for all the other characters to give them a little bit more backstory, a little bit more explaining, a little bit more exploring, because those are the characters that we care about.
Yeah, and I would agree as well. One of the things that we talked about was how the movie kind of feels like it was shot at very different points in time. You have, let's say, from Kano's introduction and Cole and all of that, like, onward, it feels like it was shot like a while ago, like many years ago. And don't get me wrong, it's clean and everything looks very tidy, but there's the opening scenes that we've been sold on. Heck, even on YouTube, we've already seen the first 7 minutes of the Mortal Kombat film, which is arguably, too, one of the the best minutes of the movie, not including the ending fight, and it is that of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And there is so much accuracy in their backstory, excluding the additional child of, which, there's a surprise child that's not canon, that's not in the lore, which will have a big reveal later on in the movie. But that beginning scene and the ending scene of two characters that we both came to see, it almost feels like it was like we were baited into seeing this movie.
Yeah.
Like if you, like they don't fully feel like they were ever intended to be in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it really shows, considering the lack of their appearance.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I kind of felt like the movie, like I was waiting for something, and even the movie felt like, hey, like don't worry, something better's coming. Like I felt like they were trying so hard to set up something else rather than just focusing on making this awesome and great. That's what I kept getting out of it.
Yeah, especially considering that they also have the teaser scene at the very end of like, hey, there's gonna be a sequel. And it kind of makes you wonder, is there really going to be a sequel? Like, you guys put a lot of eggs in that basket hoping that would happen. But after seeing this movie, I'm like, okay, I can see the potential, but I'm not 100% sold on it. And it's because of how this property was treated.
Yeah. So I'm actually, I think as far as them selling me on the next movie, I think they've earned my money. If they made another movie, I think I would go see it just because how this one's set up. Like it was Mortal Kombat, and they talked about the tournament. They talked about the backstory and the lore and the previous tournaments and the previous champions. But we didn't actually make it to a tournament in this one. So that gives me high hopes for when they actually do the tournament. Like, okay, this wasn't the tournament, but you had these kind of fights and these kind of things going. I'm expecting the tournament like to be Mortal Kombat. Like if they're just killing people the way they're doing on this in the actual tournament, I expect to see some real travesties, like people getting really hurt. Like I want to see some X Factor moves, bones getting broken. Like I want to see some destruction, Mortal Kombat. So as far as that, I feel like they've kind of lured me into the next one. Like if it comes out, they announce it. Hey, I might go see it in the theater. I might wait till it comes out on streaming, but I'm definitely going to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would say that it's like this served as kind of a good demo to like what we can expect. They played around with a lot of ideas, changing the story, refocusing on certain characters. Yeah, and just really driving that home. There's the action scenes too, which, me and you discussed, feel kind of like there's the good portion of it that feels very PG-13. And then there's that surprising end of the fight being the fatalities that's been advertised. Everyone's been saying, yeah, there's going to be fatalities in this film. So it's definitely worth it for all Mortal Kombat fans. And so I was like, it had me extremely hyped. And I guess now that they have done it and it worked, I hope that that's something that they take and say, okay, let's focus a little bit more of that brutality in the next movie in all of these fights. Maybe hire somebody more extreme in the fighting department. Bring on those guys from the raid, because those guys know what they're doing. And keep that going, and definitely try to focus more on the tournament for the next one.
Yeah. I felt like a lot of the fights didn't have any weight. Of course, the first fight with Scorpion and Sub-Zero, that had weight. You felt all the moves, all the heavy hits. You really felt that. The end fight, of course, you felt all those too.
Which goes back to us saying that those felt like they were shot at different times.
Exactly. And then some of the other fights, it's just like, okay, this was kind of pointless. This didn't make any sense. There's no weight to it. And then we got the surprise fatality from Kung Lao. Like, that was awesome. That caught me off guard because Like he says flawless victory after he gives her the buzzsaw fatality, but the thing is, they didn't even fight. Like,
it wasn't really a fight.
Yeah, like she immediately got killed. Spoiler alert, but like they don't fight. Like she attacks him, she tries to attack him, and he immediately kills her. It was like so surprised, like out of nowhere. And I'm like, well, okay, it is flawless victory, but technically you didn't fight. She didn't lay a hand on you. Like she came after you, you immediately killed her. That was probably the biggest joy of the movie. Like, okay, like this is what they really can do with the fatality. Like I wasn't expecting that. I didn't think it was going to be that gruesome. And that was a classic Mortal Kombat fatality just threw in there. And like I said, I feel like you said, they kind of suckered you into watching this movie, but not really. But it does give the potential for the next one. Because I'm like, if they could do that with that small scene, imagine having a real weighted fight where like people are fighting and bones are getting broke and they're almost coming to their death, and it's just like, okay, now it's time to finish them, you know? Like I can see the setup, it being good.
There's a very strong potential for the next one, and I really do hope that they follow through. Just, you know, they took notes from this and were like, okay, for the next one they're gonna go hard. You know, we were talking about in terms of rewatchability. I don't really know if this movie does that for me, as much as I wish it did. Like it has, like I said, it has things that I like. I don't hate it, but it definitely, like, I don't know. There's the 90s version, which though that movie wasn't the best movie in the world, I still go back and see it like every year or so, you know? Like, and that says something to me. That's there. Like some of the noticeable differences is that a lot of the old one was done like on set, whereas there were scenes in this newer one where they were on green screen. In Outworld, you had Shang Tsung, who is, by the way, in this movie extremely underused, but is put up against a green screen, a whole backdrop where the sky is just, you know, muddy brown, and that's when they introduce I forgot the character's name. Was it Nitaro with the wings? Yeah, that's where they introduce her, and you feel like you guys rushed this, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like you were running out of time or something.
Yeah, I felt like at the end of the day they had to make some sacrifices because, given that I know now, it feels like they're trying to make a trilogy or they're trying to make a couple movies out of this. And they couldn't have all of their best characters in the first movie and all of them getting killed and can't be in the second movie. So I feel like they had to make sacrifices. It's like, okay, you need this strange winged lady to come in here and get her face sawed in half so that way you can see a cool fatality. But also the fans aren't going to be upset because you killed one of the mainstays characters. You just killed them off. So I felt like they had to make some sacrifices as far as that. But yeah, there was a lot of green screen. I felt like the Goro, like the design of the Goro was good, but I felt like they shouldn't have did it all in CG. They should have did a mixture. That would have been the best result. A mixture of CG and practical effects. It's just like, okay, it's 2021 and I've seen shows like TV shows that are out now with CG that are really good. Like Mandalorian comes to mind. The new Star Trek Discovery. Like those shows have really good special effects.
Those are just TV shows.
Yeah. So if they can do it on that budget, Mortal Kombat, what's your problem?
Yeah. It seemed like they would, like, it's 2021, but they're using special effects from 10 years ago. So it's kind of like, okay, like I said, the Goro design was good, but I think you touched on this when you said it wasn't weighted. Like it was like, okay, like, yeah, he's here, but I'm really not that scared.
Right. You're essentially looking at a video game character. As good as he is, as good as the details, when you're putting something like that up against a real person who's physically there, and you can kind of compare like the lighting and the shadows on the person, the amount of texture, it stands out. It's like that movie Star Wars Rogue One. They have the one actor, Grand Moff Tarkin. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. Where they basically bring back an actor who has long since died, and they bring him back as CG character to make him look the way he did, but he's standing right next to all of these real human beings, and you pick out the one that does not belong, and it's that face every time.
But even the Grand Moff from Star Wars, they did a better job. Even with that, they did a better job because they did practical effects and they did real effects, and they kind of combined them together. So, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't like you would have to actually study it, like, and look at it real hard. Like, okay, like, hey, that guy's a special effects guy. Like, if you look at him hard enough. Whereas this was like,
that's definitely fake.
yeah, like this came from the video game. Like, did they finish doing the editing on this? Like, this doesn't look right at all in any way, shape, or form.
And you know what's crazy about that is, like, when you see Goro, it makes you think, damn, why didn't we do this whole movie like this? Like, just every character, Liu Kang and everybody, just make them CG. You would have saved a whole lot of time.
Exactly.
You could have been as brutal and bloody as you wanted to at that point.
And then I also didn't like how they did Goro. That really upset me, because first off, his design and character, and then second off, they have him get beat by this nobody made up character that at this point in the movie he doesn't even have his powers, and he just got beat up like by this other dude in the ring seconds ago. Like, he's trash. And you're telling me that the Goro that's been the champion for the last 10 Mortal Kombats gets destroyed by this guy? Like, it didn't make sense. And I mean, I guess technically they're not saying that Goro won the last 10 championships.
But that's what we know as canon.
Correct. So, I mean, technically they didn't say that. But to me, it's like, okay, come on now. There's no way he should have beat this dude. There's no way. I would have been happy if he would have summoned Scorpion and Scorpion took him out. That would have made more sense. Like, okay, this undead demon from hell came back, and of course he destroys this guy because he's an undead demon from hell. But just this new guy, like, and the way he does them, it's just like, oh my goodness. Like, he did him brutally. The fatality was lovely, but
yeah, it just wasn't earned. It didn't feel right. I feel like this movie, like, in some cases, it doesn't feel like it respects the characters. And I mean that in terms of cinematically. When you want to take the time to really build up the fear of a character and their essence and their presence. In the original Mortal Kombat, when they started to introduce Goro, it was always through, like, shadows from behind his head, or you would catch a glimpse of him, or just his fingers creeping through the door. You'd have those moments of, like, I know who that is, but they're waiting. They don't want to just throw him at us. And in this case, they took Goro and just threw him.
And I think it's also because they knew the special effects and the practical effects wasn't super on point. But for what they had, they didn't want to overdo it or overexpose him. So that way you still got the same effect, And whereas in this movie, like you said, they're just like, hey, we copied and pasted him out of the video game. There you go.
Yeah. They saved time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that this is by means a bad movie. It just needs some help in the writing department. Maybe they should hire on me. Hell, maybe they should hire on you. But just get somebody who truly loves the lore and just straighten it out. It's not impossible to make a good story. A lot of what they had in the beginning, leading all the way up to, like, when Kano kills Reptile, I was actually on board for. Those changes I was totally fine with, and it made me wonder what other like little changes they were going to make to this story. After all, I mean, we've played Mortal Kombat 9 where they totally rewrite history for the first few games, and no one lost their mind over that. In fact, they loved it because not only did it straighten out the story, but it also provided a new set of eyes for the audience. I felt like they dropped the ball and then we're not able to pick it back up the rest of the way. Like they fumbled all the way to the end.
One thing I can say though, they are getting better. From the first Mortal Kombat to the second Mortal Kombat to this one, I would say this one is the best one out of all three. And you know, it does have potential. It does have potential.
So what rating would you give this?
I would give this on a non-Mortal Kombat fan. A non-Mortal Kombat fan, I would give it a standard issue. For a Mortal Kombat fan, I will give it above standard.
Okay. I think for me, in terms of story, I gotta slap it with a standard. But that's because in terms of story, it's not like it's something I've never seen before. You know, a lot of the plot beats that they pulled are straight out of the hero's journey. They, you know, basically took the Matrix, copy and paste, move it over here. You know, Star Wars, A New Hope, copy, paste, move it over. You know, some people would call that, you know, paying homage or whatever, but, you know, I call it Control C. So, so yeah, I got to give it a standard. But from a Mortal Kombat fan, especially that first act of the movie and the closing act with Scorpion versus Sub-Zero, I gotta give it an above standard for that, just because that actually had me on the edge of my seat. You know, my wife was asking me questions in the theaters. You know, how are they gonna explain how Sub-Zero got his power? And me thinking to myself at that point in time, you know, because she was saying that it's not fair. How does Scorpion fight this man who can use ice? And me thinking to myself, they're not gonna explain it because I played the games. And then being hit in the head, realizing they're totally going to explain it. The whole thing, everybody's getting an explanation. So, yeah.
That killed some of the charm for me.
So, thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Ring my bell if that's what you're into. Be sure to like, share, and comment below. I'm Trey Keys, and this is my Uncle John.
Have a good one, guys.
And this is just a standard issue.